We're going to take a look at replacing or adjusting your points and also replacing the condenser on a VW distributor. Now we've already covered taking off the cap and the rotor arm. It is related, so if you're not sure how to do it, it's a very straightforward job. Check out that Just Kampers how-to video. We don't need many tools at all for this job. A small thin magnetic screwdriver of the flat bladed variety. It doesn't need to be magnetic, but just that tiny bit of magnetism there might save you dropping the little screw that we'll be doing. A set of feeler gauges, and for all VW distributors it's 0.4 millimeters or 16 thou, and then a set of points and condenser relevant for your distributor model. Now if you've got an 009 distributor, which is very, very common these days, the only difference really is the fact that you'll have a square plug down here, but the process of replacement is the same regardless. So we'll get on with the job. Well, the first thing, we need to locate our distributor. It is a very obvious bit of kit alongside the fuel pump down here. Now this particular model is an original style one, complete with the vacuum advance unit on the side, and it has this little lead that goes up to the carburetor, which actually makes it operate via vacuum. And what we want to do is just pull that off and take it out of the way so that we've got good access. And to take the cap itself off, very simple. Usually use a little screwdriver here just to flick it off, or you may be able to do it with your fingers. And then you simply need to take it off and move it over to one side so that it's out of the way. The rotor arm is just a simple case of pulling it off, put it somewhere safe. And then we have the little dust cap, dust cover. And if your distributor hasn't got one of these, it might be worth getting one because it does keep the damp out and make sure your car will start on a cold morning. And then we can actually take a look at the points themselves. Well, if we take a look at the centre shaft on which the rotor arm itself rotates, we can see that there's a series of flat sides and then these rounded corners. And those cam lobes are what actually open the points themselves, so we can just physically open it here, and each time it goes past one of those lobes the points open up, a spark is generated, and that goes up through the distributor cap down to the relevant spark plug. And there are two things that we need to think about here, and that is actually replacing these points here and then making sure that that gap is preset to the correct amount. And across all models, the gap that we want on there is 16 thou in old money or 0.4 of a millimetre, so we need our feeler gauges. Well, all the distributors have basically the same components, but depending on the year, the condenser will be in a separate place. It really does depend on which year, and old school people like to refer to condensers as their correct term, which is a capacitor. On an earlier style one like this, we see it attached to the side of the body here, alongside the vacuum advance, and the actual connection for itself is a round plug, and that fits in from underneath the distributor. On some of the other models it's a square plug and it fits in through the side of the distributor. Either way, all you need to do is follow the line here, the little wire that comes off the points to where it connects onto that plug, and grab hold of it and lift it up, and it's just a female spade there. And then you need to undo the one securing screw that retains the points in. Now normally that would be a flat bladed one, but unfortunately the horror has happened here and it looks like somebody's fitted a cross-headed self-tapping screw. I shudder to think what problems that's going to give us, but we might get lucky. So time to abandon the flat blade and get out a cross-headed. And it is really important not to lose this screw. So if you can, use a magnetic screwdriver or place a magnet on the shaft of the screwdriver, or just be very, very careful. And it is a tiny, tiny thing where you want to unscrew that screw all the way out, but don't attempt to lift the screw out of the body. Just leave it in place, and then you want to grasp hold of the wire that's coming from the point. So I'm using a set of needle nose pliers so you can still see what's going on, and then lift the whole lot up in one with that screw still there, and then you don't stand as much chance of dropping it. Put it down somewhere safe and guard that screw with your life. And you may be able to see this little earth wire here. Well, there is an earth wire as standard in here, but it shouldn't be in this position. There's obviously been a problem with it in the past and somebody's effected a repair, so we'll just put that back in as it was when we're finished. Well, here are the original points that we've taken out, and whilst they're not absolutely wrecked, bearing in mind the points operate like this, you can actually see here the little lump that's appeared, and this means that the spark gap is not going to be even. In the old days, you simply used to have to file those down when you reset points, but these days points are so cheap, you just put a brand new set in. And generally speaking, they'll last a good 3,000–4,000 miles, sometimes longer if you do actually check and adjust them regularly. So we'll take a look at the brand new ones now for comparison. And here you can see what they should look like, perfectly smooth, almost mirror-like finish there between the two surfaces. So when we set that up with the feeler gauges, we're going to have a nice even spark. Well, the one thing I haven't really explained at the moment is the way in which the points open up, and that is with this little brush on the end there. You can just see it here. And this little piece here actually runs along the shaft, and each time it comes to a bump, it's that goes in and out. And it is important that it does have a little bit of lubrication, and it basically is this brush wearing down, which means the points close up over time. Okay then, just to familiarise ourselves, this little threaded hole here is where the securing screw goes back into, and we've been very lucky here, despite the fact the self-tap has been used, it's not damaged the thread, so all is good. These two lugs at the back here are quite important in the process of adjusting the points. You'll see just up here on the points themselves there's a tiny slot, and what we'll be doing is engaging one side of the flat bladed screwdriver in there, the other side will go onto the lugs here, and we will either twist to open up like so, or we will twist, a bit fiddly even when I'm just showing you this, and twist to close up in the other direction. Once you've cleaned your distributor shaft off of any old burnt on grease and put some fresh new appropriate stuff on there, and if you're not sure which product to use, then again, as ever, refer back to your workshop manual. You can then have a look at this one final thing before we put the points in, and that is this little lug that you'll see on the end of the points, and there is a corresponding hole in the base of the distributor here. You can see how far away it is from where the securing screw goes in, and the idea is that we want to set that down into position first, and then we can rotate the whole points along until we can get the screw down, and just lightly nip it up before we start adjusting it. So it's a case of dropping them down and then just making sure that that post drops down into the hole, and just lightly nip it up before we start adjusting it. At the moment, our little brush, which is going to be doing all the opening and closing, is actually on the flat portion. So what we need to do is turn this distributor shaft around a little, and how we do that is just by rotating the whole assembly using the fan belt. Now it's really important when you do turn the engine over with the fan belt that you don't get your fingers squashed, so you might want to use a socket on the top nut of the top pulley, or if not, just being very careful, don't put your thumbs underneath the belt and eyeball it. The points will open a little as well, and there we have it, we're right on its maximum opening. Well, once you've selected the correct feeler gauge from your selection in there, of course, just a quick reminder, 16 thou 0.4 of a millimetre. All you need to do is from above, and I'll try and do this so you can see what's going on, is put your feeler gauges in there. And like I said, this is a fiddly job. You just want to engage the screwdriver into the slot in the points and against the lug, and then just ever so gently tweak them back together until that's closed up nicely on there. Now normally you'd be able to use the same screwdriver, this flat bladed screwdriver, to tighten up the points. Now they're in the correct position, but of course I was very unlucky and it's got this horrible self-tapper in here, so I'm going to have to pick up another one, and then it's just simply a case of nipping that up. So once you've got that nice and tight, there we go, take the screwdriver out, take the feeler gauges out, and just make sure that they will just pass through there with the slightest bit of resistance, and then you know you've got that gap correctly. Now you can either connect this back down onto your condenser, so it's just literally a case of pushing it straight back in, or do the sensible thing and think of them as coach and horses, love and marriage, however you like to think of it, but always replace your points and condenser at the same time, because if you've got worn out points, you put a new set in, it's just one of those things, within a couple of weeks your condenser's going to go down. So we'll go ahead and replace the condenser next.